There's a very special film that I think all New Zealanders should make an effort to see in the New Zealand International Film Festival. If not now, make sure you see it after the festivals have rolled on past in Auckland and Wellington. But it's one I'm really looking forward to seeing tomorrow. It's a film by Tony Sutorius, and it's about Helen Kelly, who was a giant of the social justice movement in New Zealand. And then in 2015, this vibrant, caring, passionate woman was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and Tony managed to capture on film the last year of her life. So I'm really happy to have you in the 13th Floor studio.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Nice
Kia ora.
to be here. Kia ora.
Yeah, she was vibrant and she was passionate. She cared deeply about the well-being of New Zealanders, didn't she?
Yeah, she was cool. She was cool, and she was actually very nice too. You know, that often sounds very heavy and kind of, but she wasn't like that. She was very, very personable and just really fun to be around.
Practical. She had a practical approach to things.
She
in
did.
a way, didn't she?
She did.
Roll up your sleeves and get going and help.
Yeah, she did, and she also had this very this ability, or this natural thing that everyone she interacted with, she just considered to be of equal value, whoever they were and whatever context she engaged with them in. You know, she didn't have kind of, you know, these are my work people, these are my home people. Yeah. People were just people in her life.
God, I'd love to get back to that in New Zealand, wouldn't you?
Well, you know, it's a funny thing because I kind of thought that I lived there. And, you know, because you kind of think that that's who we are.
Yeah.
But when you actually spend time around someone who actually does do that, then you suddenly realise, oh, actually, that's a bit unusual.
Yeah. No, it was just an article in the Herald the other day saying we now have 50 people with over 250 million or something in this country. It's just grotesque. But anyway, moving on from equality and egalitarianism, which was a big part of her life, how did you come into Helen Kelly's life? How did you first know her? Was it through the diagnosis?
No. Well, no. Luckily, no, it wasn't. I think that would have been different. No, I knew Helen before a little bit. I'd actually filmed an interview of her 20 years ago for a famous New Zealand documentary called Someone Else's Country that Alistair Barry directed back in the day. And
my father was in that.
Oh, really?
Wonderful, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I edited some of that and stuff, and she was cool then. She was kind of in her mid-20s, I guess, and she was very, very interesting person. And I've known her a little bit since then, and made some films sort of with her. Here and there. Basically, she'd bring me to do favours, basically. There was this group of people in Wellington who would get the hey mate calls from Helen, and we'd know that, what is it, Helen? Yes, right. How soon? Right. No money, of course not. Yes, right. And we'd always end up doing it. And you know, they were always good causes, and they were always nice people. So
talk about your own background in that context. What have you done in the journey of your life?
I'm a documentary filmmaker of fairly long standing. I started with Alistair's film out of university. I'd done some TV work. I made a film called Campaign back in 1999. It came out,
that was in the film festival.
It was, yeah, it certainly was.
And that did very well.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. That was kind of a political comedy, so it's sort of a bit different from this one in character. But
tell us a bit more about that, because people might be piquing people's interest.
Well, it's available online if anyone still wants to see it. It's on New Zealand On Screen. It was about the first MMP election campaign, and if you remember, everyone was talking about that being a new age of consensus politics, and there was a tremendous amount of excitement that politics was going to stop being mean. And it was mean, you know, predictably enough. And the national candidate who looked like winning was backstabbed by the Prime Minister, Jim Bolger, just right before the election, who endorsed Richard Prebble, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, it was kind of, at the time, I was outraged as a very young filmmaker. I thought it was appalling the way it had all gone. But interestingly enough, when I look at it now, I just, the miracle of democracy still, I find absolutely amazing, you know, but basically that people are willing to lose an election and go, oh well, and nobody runs down Lambton Quay with an AK-47, which when you think about it, makes a certain kind of animal sense, right? I mean, I've spent some time since then. I've actually just come back from Bougainville, where I'm working on some films around the independence referendum, which is coming up there.
Yes.
So when you see democracy under more pressure and less kind of deeply embedded in a culture, perhaps, it's we're lucky to have what we have. Lucky
in a way, but also there's terrific vulnerabilities of it. You know, the backstabbing, the brutality of it, the deal making, and the turning your back on promises. There are so many weaknesses with democracy that we're seeing now, aren't we?
Well, kind of. You know, but I feel like it's kind of like ritualised violence. You know, I mean, Well, does it sound cynical? I actually don't mean it cynically. I mean it quite idealistically.
It's true.
Like we, it's what we do instead of beating each other with sticks.
Wow.
And when you look at it that way, it's actually quite astonishing. It's the highlight of civilization, in my view. We actually share power. We have this quite subtle system that allows it to kind of follow the ebbs and flows in society, and to a greater or lesser extent, it sort of somewhat reflects what quite a few of us sort of want, in theory.
Interesting.
In theory.
We work with, at 13th Floor, we also work with Brian Bruce in his online platform, New Zealand Public Television. It'd be great to get those two films on that platform, Campaign and Someone Else's Country. Many people would love to look at that. That was a powerful film.
Yeah.
So I'll talk to you about that after. Getting back to Helen Kelly, though, so here's this courageous woman, and she's really facing down, it's a cliche, but it is the biggest challenge. Gosh, death is coming to us all, but death is coming to me sooner. So how was she when you rang her up and said, Helen, I want to follow you. I want to film this.
Well, it was funny, actually. I sat down with her the very first day after she had stopped work as the secretary of the CTU. She was nervous about not having a job. It was the first time in her adult life, I think, when she hadn't worked, and she really felt, antsy about that.
And this was purely because of the illness, because of the challenge.
Yeah. She was dying. I mean, she had a terminal disease. But she grew up in a very hard-working household, and in many ways was actually quite a conservative person. And from quite a conservative family around. Everybody works, everybody tries hard. It's old-fashioned New Zealand stuff, it seemed to me. Anyway, I sat down with her on that first day and said, look, mate, I don't know what you're going to do. She didn't know either. And I don't know how long this is going to seem like a good idea for either of us, but how about if I just tag along with a camera and see what happens? Wow. And that's what we did. And it turned out that that lasted for the rest of her life, which was a year just about. And unsurprisingly, I guess, in retrospect, turned out to really take in some very important events and ideas in New Zealand culture. It was the work that she really wanted to try to get over the line before she couldn't contribute anymore.
Enormously important things happen in that. I mean, even Pike River, which has been this enigma and this brutal wound on the national psyche, really. Yes, and didn't you get footage right within the mine for this film? Yes. Tell us about that, Tony.
This footage is of the inside of the Pike River mine, and I mean it's.
How did you get it? How did you
well,
find
it's floating around somewhat in the public domain now. It wasn't at that time. I was close with the Pike River families, and it was decided that was an appropriate thing to do. It's funny because when you look at this material, a lot of what everybody thinks they know about the Pike River mine turns out to be obviously wrong. I mean, everybody's been told it was like complete furnace and there's ash and that's all there is and there's nothing there. You look at this video and you see plastic buckets and wooden pallets and rubber hoses.
It just stinks to me of a cover-up, and we don't know why, but something smells so wrong about the whole thing.
Yeah,
so Helen was also smelling something really off, and even with her illness, she's willing to go in and do work with those families.
Absolutely. In fact, I mean, it wasn't a question of even with her illness. It was a question of, she was just wanting to get them there before she couldn't anymore. I mean, as far as she was concerned, that was the top priority. It's funny, you talked about the struggle of dying. For her, I think the primary struggle of dying was it was just bloody inconvenient. It was kind of, it was definitely interfering with the things that she wanted to do, and she wanted to get as far as she possibly could, while she could. And
so did you film that battle of?
I did.
Yeah. So was it depression? Did it show up as depression, or it's not fair victimhood, or did it? No. How did it show up in her case?
Helen was. It's actually one of the areas we really connected. She was very, very strong. She was a leader, in quite a pure sense. And I think what that meant is that she considered it her responsibility to kind of shoulder that burden and try to help other people through it. So she did that, and it's just she would make jokes about it, and she would put it on the table. Yeah, it's a funny thing because she never ever misled or lied or in any way dissembled about how sick she was. She would always tell people, and yet no one ever really believed it because the life force and the energy that just came from her, right until the very end, was just didn't seem possible.
But it wasn't that stoicism of our grandparents who were suffering quietly. She wasn't being stoical, she was sharing it. Was there a vulnerability to that? Or was there a stoicism behind all of this?
I think you probably would call it stoicism. I mean, you know, I'm sure that behind closed doors and with their very close family, it was probably a bit different. But with pretty much everyone else, she was very matter of fact about it, and she didn't really want to spend a lot of time on it. I mean, for example, she was approached constantly by journalists wanting to do legacy pieces about her life. She was very impatient with it. It turned into a bit of a joke. She just wanted to talk about the stuff she was doing now. Thanks very much.
There was another story of a woman whose husband had died, and it wasn't being owned as an accident, and she fought for her. So she really went out as a protagonist.
Well, I mean, this film isn't just about Pike River. There's a number of horrendous cases in the forestry sector that she really wanted to get finished while she could, and even just industrial, well, not just, but industrial work of a horrendous character, and with Tally's meat workers in Wairoa and other centres who had been locked out, and you know, there was huge legal fights, there was non-compliance with court orders. It was a horrendous thing, and she was like literally, you know, with no hair, straight out of chemotherapy, driving all the way to Wairoa to wait in, and did.
Were there times of complete breakdown, and were you allowed to film those?
I don't think there was, to be honest. I think she just soldiered through. It was funny. She actually, for a long time, she coped with chemotherapy and radiation extraordinarily well. She always used to tell everyone she was made for chemotherapy. It was like you couldn't tell she was sick. She'd just soldier on. It was great. But then, quite suddenly, all of a sudden, it wasn't so good. And she got weaker, and you know, and it was quite shocking to the people around her. But her expectation was that she'd just keep on going. She said to me, you know, that her idea was to live while she's alive. Wow. She says in the film at one stage, she says, you know, last week I felt like I was dying, but this week I feel like I'm living. So, you know, let's get on with it.
What did you learn from filming it, Tony?
Oh gosh, it's changed my life. Actually, it really has. It challenged me in some ways that I was very surprised by, and still haven't quite got to the end of working out for myself. I think one of the most important was the idea. I mean, I mentioned before about her humanism and her willingness to engage with everybody on a completely equal and very real way. You know, she didn't have formal relationships with anybody. I don't just mean she was chummy with them. I mean, she was actually seriously in a sort of a friendship mode, no matter how or what, right? So even though she's dealing with people who are in desperation because their children have been killed at Pike River, or because their husbands have been killed in a forestry accident, or are locked out for 100 days from a freezing work, she was absolutely willing to be friends with them, to have them stay at her house, to have, you know, everyone had their cell phone number. She was completely, and they really were her friends, you know. And of course, you know, as a journalist, and you know, you can't do that, right? You can't. You've got to have this line. You've got to have this place where you stand and where they stand, and you drop in and you do it, and then you go on.
Yes.
You don't. She didn't. I don't know. I don't 100% get it, even to this day, because I can't make it make sense in my head. But I have been trying really hard with her challenge, I guess, to actually see what happens when you start doing that. And I suspect you can do it. It's just kind of more convenient not to. And I can't think of an ethical defence for behaving like that, really.
That's beautiful. Yeah. What else, Tony? What else touched you deeply?
Helen was pretty cool, and you know, she was quite a combination of things. She was, apart from what I've already talked about, she was very smart. She was a lawyer. You know, she had many skills and resources to draw on. But I think the important thing for me has been the realisation that people can just decide to engage with things and try to make them better. You know, I mean, I come from Wellington, and Wellington is very full of people, you know, who talk a good game and, you know, have a really right-on Facebook feed. But actually, you know, hold back a little from actually doing things. You can just do things and actually make a difference, and you don't need to be super skilled or in a position of enormous privilege. You can just offer support. and the essence of it, the first part, is when someone's in that kind of position of need, is to actually engage with them as a human being and actually be willing to step over the breach and just talk to them. You know, having spent time with the Pike River families, you know, they get strange behaviour from people they interact with a lot of the time. People are scared to say the wrong thing and scared about this and scared about that, so they hold back in a weird way. You don't need to, you know. Even if people have had terrible things happen to them, they are just people. And you can actually...
And we all want that connection. We all want that humanness.
Yeah, they really bloody need it, right? People have had that kind of situation.
And Helen Kelly embodied that. And one of the best lines, perhaps to finish, is a review of it said, "This will really embolden Kiwis to fight back." So I think this is such a crucial movie, and you've really contributed something, I think, potentially to the national conversation going forward. Thank you so much, Tony Sutorius. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. Lovely.
Thank you very much for having me.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.